Hello, and welcome to the Better Late Than Never podcast, which really is less of a podcast and more of just a audio diary. If anything else, it's just me kind of just talking about stuff that's on my mind. This is usually stuff that I would I'd either talk to friends about or stuff I would talk to myself about because I'm a weirdo and I talk to myself all the time. And especially when I'm driving. I take a lot of, I try to take what I call Sunday drives where I'll just hop in a car and a car. Yeah, I just grab some random person's car and hop in and just drive around and just think out loud, just talk about whatever's on my mind. Um, and rather than just voice them to myself and be in an echo chamber, I figured it might be kind of interesting to uh, continue to share my thoughts. Um, so, so here it is. I guess I could go back from when I started from my last recording, which was I think 2 years ago, back in 2023. Since then, I turned 30. I actually turned 31. So I'm officially an unk. I'm officially an old head, apparently, according to literally everyone else I know. Um, and it's kind of interesting because I never really anticipated reaching the age of 30. You know, growing up, I always had a really poor sense of foresight. I always sort of assumed I wasn't going to live to be 30 years old. And it's not because, like, oh, I lived a very dangerous life or, like, oh, I'm a risk taker or I'm a troubled kid or anything like that. It was just kind of like, I can't, if you had asked me at 10 years old, what are you going to be doing? I would have told you either I want to be a manga artist or I'll be dead. And I remember doing a some kind of project when I was in like maybe sixth grade or fifth grade, and it was like writing about or drawing pictures of different aspects of your life. And one of them was like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I drew a gravestone. And I was not, at that age, I didn't want to take my life. I still don't have any inclinations on doing that, on taking my life or anything like that. I'm just pointing out, like at that point in my life, I had a very morbid sense of humor, and I had a very poor sense of foresight. So turning 30 wasn't really something I had planned out. I had never planned out like, oh, I'm going to be doing this when I'm 30. I hope I'll be doing this when I'm 30. It's just like, oh, boom, you're 30 now, and now and I mean, now I'm 31, but last year I turned 30, and it's like, okay, is there a significant change when you turn 30? And for me, it kind of felt like there was. It felt like, okay, I'm 30 now. I can't use the guise of, not to say 30 isn't still young comparatively, but like I can't use the guise of being in my 20s and being like, I'm still college. I'm still in college. I'm still a student. I can still mess around and do whatever because I'm still a kid. I don't know any better. It's like, no, you're 30 now. Like you're fully adult. It's like you were fully 100% an adult. That's how my brain looked at it. I mean, if we were in ancient Sparta, if I hadn't joined a mess hall by now, I would have been considered a loser or a failure. So it's that's kind of how I looked at it. Like once you turn 30, you are officially a full grown adult. And that made like it, it's a scary proposition, but it's also sort of liberating. I think that in the climate that we live now, and I'm not going to get political. I'm very apolitical, so this is not going to I'm not going to bring politics into this at all, but I think in the climate that we live in now where the idea that you can only be successful or you can only make something of yourself if you work at one company for 30, 40 years, and then you retire and you get your 401k and retirement and all this and that. Like, I feel like that's not the reality anymore. Um, with my parents' generation and their parents' generation, that's just not the reality. I don't anticipate being able to retire by the time I reach that age. I don't anticipate that's going to even be a prospect. So there comes like a certain freedom of thought where you sort of, for me, I've realized like I can do anything if I put my mind to it. And the arbitrary idea that you have to do certain things at certain times of your life, I feel like that sort of melts away. And it really kind of only melted away for me when I turned 30. Because in my 20s felt like a second adolescence. Like it just felt like I was a teenager over again. Um, as a child and as a teenager, I was very unself-aware. I was very in my own head all of the time. Not, I'm an INTP, so I was very in my head all the time, and I didn't have any sense of solid identity. And that didn't really manifest until I got to my like mid or late 20s. So all that time, from childhood up into my mid 20s, I was still trying to figure out who I was. And we all are. And I mean, even when you reach your 30s and 40s and 50s and even 60s, you're still figuring out more about who you are and what your true nature is, what your unconscious and and conscious mind are like when they blend together and all that. Um, and so yeah, my 20s felt like a second adolescence. And so I hope I'm not losing my train of thought. When I got to 30, that arbitrary idea of like, I need to be doing this by the time I'm 25. I need to be doing that by the time I'm 28. I need to be doing this by the time I'm 35. Like that kind of just, it melted away. And I think part of it was looking at, realizing that a lot of our media, especially social media, pushes that narrative of like, when you reach this age or you reach this point in your life, you should be or need to be doing X, Y, or Z. And the more I think of that, the more I'm like, could you imagine how homogenistic life would be if everybody was meeting certain milestones at certain ages? Because then there's no room for experimentation. If the standard is by the time you're 21, you got to have your bachelor's. By the time you're 24 or 23, you got to have your master's. By the time you're 26 or 28, you got to have your doctorate. And everyone has to go through that path. And anyone who strays off that path is a degenerate and is an outsider and isn't worth being considered a part of this functioning society. It's like, that's awful. And I think we see how that mindset is a detriment to the development and evolution of humans and free thought and free action. Um, and it's a detriment to the idea that everyone has a different path, everyone has a different way that they should and need to follow. Um, that kind of mindset is, I think, is stuff that some people in my generation are going through and are either, some of them are thriving in it and some of them are realizing, yo, this is not it. This is not it at all. The generation before me, whether that be like Gen X, I think they're kind of in the same boat. And then it's the generation before that, that's kind of, my parents' generation and before that, that's kind of what they assumed was the norm. It might have been easier or harder, whatever the circumstances were. But the point I'm making is, for me, reaching 30 made me realize like my society and external factors should not be setting milestones for how my life plays out. Those shouldn't and don't need to play a factor. And it all depends on my outlook. If I let those things decide my, how things play out for myself. I guess some people it works, but for me that wouldn't work. That would just make me feel depressed, like I'm just a cog in this machine and I'm not an individual. I'm just part of this machine, and I'm just doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. Some people find comfort in that, but for me I don't find comfort in that. I find that very rigid and suffocating and claustrophobic. And I used to give myself, all through my 20s and maybe late teens into my 20s, like I gave myself a lot of grief for that. I used to think, man, I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I'm falling behind, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I should be doing this, everyone else is doing this, but I'm not doing it. Why am I not doing it? When I try to do it, it doesn't work. Things don't work out correctly. They fail. Am I a failure? All these questions. And it leads to this really negative sense of self-worth and this detriment to my sense of self-esteem. And it's stuff that I still wrestle with, but I think that a certain milestone of like reaching a certain age, like turning 30, made me kind of realize, like, look, that doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to adhere to that anyways. I don't like this system. So why am I A, forcing myself to adhere to it, and B, getting all upset when it doesn't work? I don't even like that system to begin with. So why does it matter? Why is it invoking this emotion out of me? This depression and this paranoia and this depression. So that's sort of something that's one of the things that kind of clicked in my brain. And I wouldn't say it clicked in the sense of like I'm totally 100% like past that, or I've totally 100% gained that sense of enlightenment, quote unquote. But it's a little easier to be comfortable with where I am and to better understand who I am. Um, and yeah, and I think another part is to better understand like things that I like and hobbies, and understand why I like them and where they play a role in my life. Um, for a long time, uh, I didn't really indulge certain hobbies or things that I enjoyed because I felt like I'm not supposed to, because, oh, it's a waste of time. You can't make money doing this. It's not worth you doing. Excuse me, like playing video games or doing artwork or um literally anything, like recording my thoughts or writing or any other like creative outlet. I would put all that stuff to the side because I thought, well, I got to climb the corporate ladder. I got to, get this promotion and work for this company, and I got to do this, that, and the other. And it's like, that doesn't work. And it's making me more and more depressed because I'm not indulging the things that I truly enjoy. Um, and I've seen it in people who are close to me, and people I've seen in the periphery who lived the lifestyle of they worked and climbed up that corporate ladder and, you know, end up retiring or end up, at a certain point, and then they look back on themselves and they're like, dang, I I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't have any hobbies. I don't have anything that gives me genuine pleasure. Anything that makes me feel connected to the continuity of myself. And I think that's a big point, is like yourself is a continuity. Your whole sense of self starts from, birth, and then continues into your childhood, your adolescence, young adulthood, later adulthood, elder age, until you die. And I think, at least when I was growing up, there was this idea, and it might have been completely self imposed, or maybe it's something I picked up from my peers or something I picked up just from somewhere. But there was this idea of like, you're a child then you're a teen, then you're an adult. And those are completely separate stages. And once you've left one stage, you cannot indulge anything that came before. And, once you, like, when you become a teenager, it's like, oh, I can't do the stuff I used to do as a kid. I can't, I can't, I don't know what kids, I can't do stuff that I did as a kid because I'm a teenager now. I'm more mature. I'm too grown for that. And then you become an adult and you're like, well, I can't indulge stuff I did as a teenager. I'm an adult now. I can't do that. And something I've noticed is, at least with people that in my life that I see directly and indirectly, there's this like longing for those pastimes and those hobbies that we indulged as youths that we want to return to. And that could be because adult life is really hard, especially with circumstances now, with global economic political circumstances now. Life is really, really hard. And there's this longing for that, I guess, in a way, blissful ignorance. I don't want to say blissful ignorance. I don't feel like that's the right term, but there's a longing for that sense of peace, I guess, that we had when we indulged stuff like playing video games. Maybe you grew up playing with Legos and you start finding yourself wanting to collect Legos, or card games, or going outside and doing whatever you did. Um, that's all a continuity. I mean, it can even reflect to things like fashion, like clothes that you used to wear as a teenager and stuff. You might find, I kind of go back to wearing that stuff again. Um, different things like that. I don't think necessarily the mind reverts back to that. That would just be regression, but there is still a piece of that in you that continues forward. And it's not a shameful or immature thing to go back to those things and enjoy those things, not just for the nostalgic value, but to understand the underlying value of doing those things. Um, and and yeah, so I'll give an example. I trying to think. I have two examples I'll give. So one is, I used to play a lot of video games as a teenager. A lot. Like pretty much all day. If I wasn't in school, I was playing video games. But I was playing those video games alone. It was always single player, games that I would play, and I would swap between them all the time. And as a kid, it was just a level of interactivity. But as I became a teenager, it didn't occur to me until I got to my 20s that this was the case, but it was a way of coping with loneliness and depression. Um, and as I got older, I started to find, why don't I really enjoy playing these games so much, or all of the games? Like, there's still certain video games that I enjoy playing, but it's a slice, like the slightest slice of the whole pie of the games. It's like, maybe you get what I'm saying. It's like maybe 3 of 50 games or something like that. And I would think on it and I'd be like, well, why don't I really like playing these games so much? Why am I, not that interested in them? And it occurred to me, like, well, that was, as a teenager, that was just that was escapism. That was you just escaping the circumstances of your life, which weren't wholesomely negative. Like, I'm not trying to be like, woe is me, I was so depressed and so I turned to video games because that was my only, like, no, it was nothing like that. But there were still things that were bothering me that I didn't want to or know how to acknowledge or even know they existed, so I would turn to video games. But when I became a young adult, like in my early 20s, I started to become a bit more self aware, a bit more introspective. And I started to notice, hey, I don't want to play video games anymore because it was a outlet for my depression. And so on the principle that like I don't want to indulge this hobby that was a symptom that I don't want to indulge this hobby that was an outlet for my depression, I'm just going to stop doing it. And then as I got older, I started realizing, well, hey, look, it's not all because of that. Yeah, I played video games because I was just escapism and, I wasn't really happy. But there were games I enjoyed playing that I genuinely enjoyed playing. Like, I enjoy playing The Sims because I like building stuff. I like making Sims and building stuff. It's creative and it's a way for me to exercise creativity, and that's fun. Um, and then some other like SSX, the snowboarding games. I enjoy playing those. Uh, Bully Scholarship Edition. I enjoy that. So there's still some games I enjoy, but the point I'm making is even when I came to understand the underlying reason why I was indulging a certain hobby, it made me want to resist that hobby, but then eventually I came around to understanding, hey, it's not all that bad. There's not You get it. I feel like I'm kicking a dead horse at this point. Um Another thing which is I guess relevant to this channel is like rugby reactions. Um it got to a point where I just kind of stopped doing them because I just didn't it's not that I don't enjoy doing them, but I just don't. Well, let's figure this out. Let's actually figure this out right now. Why I feel less inclined to do them. It has nothing to do with views. It has nothing to do with people watching them. I don't really care. It has more to do with like why I don't feel compelled to do them. Um, I think, growing up, my family is very sporty, or at least one side of my family is very sporty. They're all about sports, very, very, very into sports, primarily football and basketball, right? Growing up, I was not particularly sporty. I played some sports here and there, but I was never kept in them, and it never kept my interest long enough for me to like want to engage them. I specifically should say like team sports. Like I was never really good at team sports, but I was pretty decent at like solo sports, like track and field or something like that. So my family's very, very sporty, and I just don't relate to certain sports. I don't like American football, just because there's just way too much time of them not actually playing, and I don't care for the favoritism in the positions and all that. I have a lot of problems with that, and I don't really care for basketball, but I do enjoy rugby and I do enjoy soccer, or football, whatever. And I think the rugby reactions for me was just a means of me trying to share my interest in things like rugby just with anybody, because I don't my family members weren't particularly keen on watching rugby or didn't really care much about it, because they're just it's just football or basketball. That's it. Those pretty much are the only two sports that exist. Um, so they weren't keen on rugby and they weren't particularly keen on soccer. So I said, well, I like this thing and I kind of want to share that I like this thing. And so I did. And it kind of just got to a point where it's like, okay, I've shared that I like this thing, but I don't, it's just kind of, I've just kind of lost interest with it, in the sense of I don't watch rugby in my spare time. Like I don't sit down and watch it. It got to a point where I only watch this sport because of making videos, and half the time the videos would get taken down because of copyright or whatever. Even if it's just a commentary, even if I cut up the video, it's like, well, it's still getting taken down. So I'm like, well, it kind of defeats the purpose. Um, and like I said, I don't really watch rugby on my own anymore. If it if by chance it happens to be on like on the Olympics or something, then I'll watch it. But I don't actively seek out rugby at this point. It's still my favorite sport. I still enjoy it, but I don't I don't go out to look for it. Um and so that and it's I feel like that's there's a difference between like letting go of hobbies or letting go of pastimes due to just genuine ebbing interest and like feeling an obligation to let it go for whatever reason. Um, I'll give you another example. As a kid and as a teenager, I used to read a lot of manga. I was very, very into manga. I had Shonen Jumps. I had convinced my mom to subscribe me to monthly Shonen Jumps because in America we get them monthly. In Japan, they I don't know if they still get them weekly anymore, but they at the time they got them weekly. We got them monthly. So I would read those. I'd bring them to school and read them. Um, I had a manga collection. I was really into manga. And at some point, I guess maybe I was like 19, 18. I kind of just looked at all of it and I said, I I'm grown now. You know what I mean? Like I'm 18. I'm an adult now. I can't be messing with manga. This is kiddie stuff. This. And so I gave it all away. All of the Shonen Jumps, all the volumes of manga, and I gave them away. And at the time, I felt like I felt self righteous about it. I felt like, yeah, I'm moving on from all this kid stuff. I'm not playing games anymore. I'm not reading manga anymore. I'm not watching anime. I'm just full adult. I'm gonna, work at these companies and I'm gonna make a lot of money. I'm gonna wear a suit every day and I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I miss those manga. I miss it. I miss all that. And then I got to a point where, I think when COVID happened, that was the biggest shift for me. That was like the beginning of the biggest shift for me of like realizing like, working these corporate jobs is they'll let you go in a second. I've been miserable ever since I made that mental shift that I'm gonna do that. And COVID was probably one of the as horrible as it was, as horrible as it was, for me, it was one of the best things that happened subjectively for me because it made me realize like, hey, life is short. You can lose your job in a second. All this work and toil and it, it could all mean nothing. And so that made me realize, okay, I'm just going to do what I want to do. Um, and truly what I want to do. Um, and so that was around the time when I think I probably regretted giving away all the manga and shonen jumps and stuff. That's when I really regretted it the most because it was like, dang, I don't have a job and I don't have anything to do. I really wish I had some old manga to read, but also as a way to like, excuse me, to symbolically reconnect with that strong sense of identity or the stronger sense of identity that I had as a teenager that I didn't realize or that I took for granted. Um, as a kid and as a teenager, I didn't question why I liked manga. I just did. I just liked it. There didn't have to be a reason behind it. I just enjoyed it for the sake of it. Um, and then, I gave it all away and then I came back and said, man, I really miss all that. So now, I still read manga. I've been trying to reread a lot of the series um, that I had volumes for that I had given away. And part of me kind of hopes like, hey, I gave them away. It's not like I threw them away. I gave them away. I think I gave them to Goodwill or something. So maybe somewhere in the world, somebody picked up some old Shonen Jumps or picked up a volume of a manga I read, and that like sparked their interest in manga. That's I don't know. That helps me sleep at night about that. So, um, there's that, and that's just an example of like a hobby that I had I let go of due to these arbitrary uh obligatory ideals, false ideals, and then picked up again. Um, Still not a big anime person. I've never, although I will say, I have been getting more into anime movies. I saw, I don't know if I, since the last time I recorded this, probably, I can't remember. I saw Akira for the first time, which blew my mind, was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. And then I saw Paprika. I saw Paprika four times actually in the course of like a week. I I had heard because Paranoia Agent's one of my favorite animes. I love Satoshi Kon. I haven't seen all of his work, but I love Satoshi Kon's work. May he rest in peace. And Paranoia Agent's one of my favorites. It's always been one of my favorites. Even as a kid, when I first saw it on Adult Swim, it was one of my favorites. And so I told my friends, I was like, oh, I really want to see Paprika. And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll watch Paprika. And I don't remember what got me into wanting to see it. I think I was watching um I was watching some YouTube video that was like reviewing anime, and they played the intro music for the movie Paprika, and that song is like it snared me like it got stuck in my head. Like I was dreaming about that song. That's how like caught up my brain got with it. And so I said, okay, well, I gotta see this. Like the day that my friends were going to come watch it with me later that evening, I woke up that morning and said, I gotta see this movie. So I acquired a means of watching it and saw it, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Like this is awesome. Like awesome. Oh, this is one of my favorite movies. Um, Not just from a visual standpoint, but from a storytelling standpoint. I love movies that don't explain everything. I love movies that are just like, hey man, it happened. Draw your own conclusions. Like it kind of explains it in very subtle ways, but for the most part, it's like, yo, this is just what happened, bro. Figure it out. I love movies like that. And so then I watched it with my friends, and then I watched it with another group of friends, and then I watched it um, with another with my girlfriend, and that was anyway. So I've been really into like anime movies lately. I much sooner watch an anime movie than watch a series. Um, I've tried to catch up with One Piece a million times, and I just can't get into it. I've tried reading the manga multiple times. I tried watching the anime multiple times. It gets to a point where I'm just like it's just not for me. Um and I find that my like taste in like, anime and manga is kind of, I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm so unique. I like stuff that nobody else likes. I'm so unique and hipsterish. It's just like I like stuff that's not particularly popular. Like I like Baki. Um, I like Dororo. I liked, trying to think of other like series. I really like Comey Can't Communicate. I'm actually scared to. I don't know if it's over yet. Please don't spoil it in the comments if it's over. But I'm like, I'm definitely one of those people who like, if I'm really into a series, I kind of don't want to see the end of it because it's like I don't want it to be over. Like I was just like I don't want it to be. I think I'm like 20 or like 12 chapters away from like where it's more or less stopped for Comey, and it's like I don't know if it's over or if it just stopped, but I'm like I don't want to know. I just kind of don't. If I don't finish it, that means it never has to end, right? I'm definitely one of those people. So it's I I just don't want to finish it, but I need to. Um I read Tokyo Revengers, which not to spoil, but I understand the ending. I don't think it was bad. I think it could have used an extra chapter or two. That's all I'm gonna say without spoiling. Um, Trying to think. There's Vagabond. I've been rereading Vagabond, and actually got a friend of mine really into Vagabond. Um, so just basically, I've just been rekindling my interest in manga and things like that. Um, so that's a whole tangent. Um, what else? I guess I could uh give an update on like what I've been up to. I've been working multiple jobs. My job as a masseur is very unpredictable and unstable. Um, it's clientele based, and I am not much of a salesperson at all. I'm not the type to push someone to get an appointment. I'm not the type to uh, remind old clients of appointments. I'm not the type to try to upsell. I just am not that guy. Um, I'm very much like, even when I've worked retail jobs, I've told people like, this is what the product is. Whether you buy it or not is up to you. But I'll tell you everything about what the product is, but I'm not gonna make you want to buy it. I'll tell you everything good and bad about it, so you come to your own conclusion. Which I think the customers appreciated. I don't think my management necessarily appreciated that I was telling people what was wrong with the thing, but also what was good about it, like letting them know everything. Um, and so, anyway, my job is kind of unstable, and I don't I like what I do comparatively to what I've done before. Um, I wouldn't say massage is my passion. It's not. It doesn't give me a strong sense of personal fulfillment. I like the fact that I help other people. It's nice, but it's not like the thing that drives me to get up out of bed every morning. It's not that for me. Um, and so that's just kind of where I'm at with that. Um, I remember so my friends got me into tarot card readings. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about tarot card readings. um, so I have this. I promise this all comes full circle. I just tend to go on tangents and just bounce around a lot. So please bear with me. But I've always had this hypothesis that the full moon affects human behavior on some subtle level. I don't know why. I don't know if there's any biological or scientific explanation. It's just, I've always had this idea that when it's a full moon, stuff happens. People, like, I don't know, people commit more crimes. People are more sexually active. Like, people have more energy. People just stuff tends to happen around the full moon and around the new moon when there is no visible moon. um it feels like that's like a resetting period. That's when like new ideas spark, and I start trying to work towards new things. That's just been like a pattern I've noticed in myself. And if you've noticed it too, please leave a comment, but that's just something I've noticed. So anyway, I had a friend who had mentioned, hey, why don't you try doing tarot card readings during the full moon? So we did it once, and we did. I don't know if we did it properly. I don't know. We what is it? You shuffle the deck. You knock on it 3 times. You cut the deck with your non-dominant hand, and then you draw the cards with your dominant hand. And the first time we did it, I wasn't. I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt in the sense of like this is at the very least a good introspective practice because you see the cards, you interpret them, and it helps you reflect on how you interpret those cards reflects onto your own sense of psyche and where you feel that you're at in your life or how you feel, whatever keyword you associate with each card or with each what's it called, draw, how that relates to you. So like for instance, let's say like I don't remember what the first draw we did was, but it's like past, present, future. You might, without any context on tarot readings, you might draw your past card, see the image, and interpret the image like this is, it's a 5 of wands. It's a person with, I don't know, 5 wands. I don't know what the 5 of wands looks like, but like I can't remember it. But like you might see that and think, oh, well, he's standing in a field of grass. Maybe that means like he's got a bountiful such and such, or like, there's you would look at the image and interpret it. Same with like those ink things, I think, that where like it's a blob of ink and you just interpret what it means. So anyway, we did those, and I think the first time we did it, me and my friends, it was just like we didn't have the meanings behind it. But my friend's wife had a book, or has a book that has more information on the interpretation. So didn't think much of it. We did it again the next like full moon, and I was reading them and getting the interpretations, and I was like, yo, this is kind of like, this is pretty accurate. Like this is pretty accurate. Maybe it's just, you know, my introspective mind just associating, trying to put the parts together for, like maybe it was, I don't know what the word is or what the phrase is, but like my me wanting it to work or giving it the benefit of the doubt made it seem like it was working more than it actually was. Who knows? But the point is, I did it and I was like, wow, this is pretty accurate. And we would all discuss what the meanings were and what we think of them and all that. So I think it was like the third time we did it. My friend's wife drew her cards, and she was like, you know what? I don't know about this. I don't really feel like this is relevant. Mind you, it's the full moon again. And she's like, I'm gonna do it again. I'm just gonna reshuffle and do it again. So she reshuffles the cards entirely, the whole deck, puts them down, cuts them, and draws the exact same cards in the exact same order twice in a row. And me and my friend were like, yo, what? Like, my friends trying to calculate, like, what are the mathematical chances that she would draw the exact same cards in the exact same man? So I think from then on, I was just like, this is real. Like, there's something to this. There's no way she drew the same cards. And it was 3 cards too. It wasn't like she drew 1 card or 2, 3 cards, the exact same cards in the exact same order after shuffling the deck. And I'm like, okay, all right. So anyway, that kind of convinced me, like, yo, there's something to this. I don't know how deep it gets, but there's definitely something to this. So anyway, bring it all full circle. Over the past, a couple of years, we've been doing tarot readings here and there. I try to do it like maybe once a month, once every 2 months or so, whenever I just kind of remember to, usually around the full moon or the new moon, right? And I remember distinctly getting a pull that was, when did I do this pull? It was like maybe November or October of last year, of 2024. And I did a poll that was basically asking like what what is the path I'm on? What is the right path? And what how do I get to the right path? Or how do I like transition? Or like what should I do about these paths, right? And I don't remember what the card was. I took a picture of them. I don't really want to like digress to like pull up the picture because I got to scroll through all my photos and stuff. But basically, it was saying how the path I'm on or was on at that point was one where it's just going to be very unstable. Financially, I was going to be unstable. Like relationships with my family are going to be unstable. It's just going to be a lot of instability. And immediately my brain went to my job. My job is very unstable. Sometimes I make a lot of money and sometimes I'm broke for weeks on end. And, forbid I get sick. If I get sick, then it's, what I mean? So that was the path that I was on. And the path that I needed to get to was one, if I remember correctly, it was the Ace of Wands, I think. Basically, it was saying, like, my true path is one of creativity. My true path is one where creativity is the catalyst for all of the things that I do. Um, and that can manifest in so many different ways, but it was basically saying that. And if I remember, I don't remember the last card. I think it was something like to get to that transition, I have to nurture those creative habits and those creative hobbies that I have and not let them fall to the wayside just because I have like a lacking sense of self-confidence. Um, I mean, as with the Myers-Briggs, I think what is it? INTP is our parent function, or one of our shadow functions is uh there's so many acronyms for Myers-Briggs. Basically, we have a bad habit of like not doing what we feel we should do because we think it's a bad idea, or we procrastinate, or we just think like, oh, it's not worth it because whatever. So anyway, there was that, and that's sort of persisted for a while, and it's persisted in the sense of like with my job, it's nice that I can help people, but I don't, it's very unstable. And when it comes to like creative outlets, like I like to think I'm pretty creative. I'm not the best at the things that I do. I like to make music. I'm not the best at making music. I'm not even like, I'm like pretty mediocre in the things that I like to do, to be quite frank. Um, but that doesn't mean I should just stop doing them. And I think that applies for a lot of things. I mean, like, just because you're not the best at it doesn't mean, oh, well, then there's no point in doing it. Um, and I think that that relates a lot to our society and like how, like I said, I don't want to get political. And I don't want to just point fingers at one political ideology because all of them have their flaws. But that's how a lot of society kind of pushes it is you've got to be the best. And if you're not the best or you choose not to strive to be the best, then someone else will take your place. And especially when we look at like social media, there's all this competition and comparison, and it's so easy to get caught up in all those comparisons. And it's like, well, I can't do it as good as this person does, or I can't be like this person, or I can't make this much or do this or blah blah blah. So I'm just not even gonna try. And it's like, no, that's a horribly what a fatalistic mentality, and it's not. Don't indulge that. Um, and so, especially if you're a creative person or you feel that you have this creativity that you want to express in some way, don't feel like, well, I'm not, you know, as good as so and so, so it's just not worth me doing. Or like, I don't get as much popularity as so and so. I don't get as many comments or likes or views or as so and so. So it's no point. It's like don't think that way. Don't even, in my opinion, don't even think in the context of like, I want to get to so and so's level. It's like, no, you should. I can understand that being a motivation, and I'm not saying that necessarily is bad, but it should also be like, I want to do it for my own sake. I want to make this stuff and express myself creatively in this outlet for the sake of doing it, not because I want to emulate so and so. Um, so yeah. Anyway, something else I wanted to mention. The well, another thing with the tarot card readings, and this is also kind of like I guess, an update, considering this is more like a audio journal than it is really a podcast. I started a long distance relationship, and met my partner for the first time. I traveled overseas, and went to Poland, and that was amazing. That was an amazing experience. Also a very heartbreaking experience because I had to leave. It was really, 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 really hard and gut wrenching to have to leave. Um, and I remember uh, thinking, um, I remember um, wondering, for a while now, I think since COVID, um, I had this idea of like, okay, I have a bucket list of things that I want to do, or hopefully things I either want to do or want to die trying to do. And one of them was go to Japan. I've always wanted to go to Japan. Um, and I had been saving up money trying to like, okay, I want to go to Japan. But then I kind of thought about it, and I remember doing a tarot card reading because I was like, well, I want to go to Japan, but I also really want to visit this person who I care about deeply and who I've been talking to for a very long time. And I'm kind of torn between like my personal want and like two things that I really want to do. And I remember doing a tarot reading, and one of the cards was, I once again I don't remember the cards off the top of my head, but it was basically saying how like all that space, like all that glimmers is not gold. The idea of like what my obstacle or what my challenge is this idea that I had like rose tinted goggles on what my like what a trip to Japan would be like, because it was all speculation. It was all like, I'm going to get there and maybe I'll do this and maybe I'll do that. Like the idea was like, I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do, but no concrete, like, there was nothing concrete about it. Um, I didn't have any itinerary planned. Honestly, if I really, really, as pathetic as this sounds, if I really thought about what would I do when I get to Japan, hmm, I like to go to an onsen if they would allow, foreigners into onsens. Um, Maybe do a tea ceremony, look at some architecture, ride a bullet train. And that's about it. It's like that's, other, and also like eat the food. But other than that, is like I can't really think of much else I would. It's all these vague ideas. It's all speculation versus visiting my partner who lives, going there and seeing her was like, no, that's real. Like you're going to see a person who is real, who you've had these conversations with for a long time. Like this is a real thing. This is reality. And it's not based on speculation of like, well, maybe we'll it's like, no, she knows this area, or at least she knows this country. Like we'll go and do this stuff together and we can plan this together and make it an actual thing. Um, it's not as arbitrary. And so that was like kind of a decision I had made, and I'm super glad I made that decision. And I think that that's been it's been a it's an interest. I'm not sure if I know what the lesson is yet, or what, you know, the way is trying to teach me when it comes to that, or what the Tao is trying to teach me when it comes to that. Of, you know, maybe I have a habit of speculating what an experience is going to be, based on like my own ego or my own like personal desires, when what is actually good for me, what actually makes sense, and what actually would truly fulfill me is actually right here. It's not in my head. It's not the ideas. It's the reality in front of me. This person who I care about, who wants to see me and who I want to see, and who I want to be with and who wants to be with me. Like, that's real. That's not in my head. And I don't know if that's, you know, just a me thing, an INTP thing, or if it has anything to do with that. Like, if you've experienced that, please, you know, speak about it in the comments. But like, that's sort of been a personal lesson that I've slowly been learning over the past couple of years, is differentiating what the universe, or what the Tao, or the way, or whatever, what the universe is presenting to me in a real tangible way, versus what my ego and what my like ideas are trying to manifest. And like, it's tricky for me to step out of my own head and look at the situation in front of me and recognize, okay, this is what's real, and this is what I should be indulging, because this is what will really fulfill me, versus these arbitrary ideas which won't fulfill me at all. And sometimes it's both, you know. Sometimes it's you know, the ideas aren't horrible. Sometimes the ideas lead to those tangible rewards or those tangible experiences. Um, but I'm finding more and more, like, the more I get out of my head and the more I engage what is, not what could be or what might be, but like engaging what is. The more I do that, the more I'm finding that things lay themselves out and work themselves out much more coherently and much more succinctly. Things just work better, versus, you know, me having to jerry rig the ideas and whatnot. Um, I guess the idea of like pushing and pulling, like, or not push and pull, but like me trying to make something happen versus allowing it to happen, um, is me allowing it to happen, is me stepping out of my head and looking at the reality of what is, versus me trying to make something, me trying to like assert this idea into the world. And I think some people have an affinity for that. You know, some people are more yang, and then some people are more yin, and it's a spectrum, and we all, you know, kind of fall somewhere on that spectrum. And in certain situations, you know, one or the other favors us better. But I personally find that I'm generally a yin person, and or I align more with yin, and so letting things play themselves out works better for me, rather than me trying to like assert onto a situation or a circumstance. So yeah, um, I can't think of any other like notable updates, or anything else particular to talk about. So I guess I'll just end it there. Thank you for listening. If you found this interesting, um, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And until next time, take care.